Welcome back, friends. It's Melanie with Melanie Stamps, and today we are doing some watercoloring on a BetterPress panel. This is new to me as I am not a colorist on watercolor, so we are just going to jump into it and we are going to play. So this is the panel I have pressed out in a previous video, and I'm going to use Zig watercolor markers. Now, like I said, I'm not proficient in watercolor markers. I've dabbled with them in the past, so I am just going to play with it and see what happens. Now, I have pulled out some Altenew ink cubes in the fall colors that I liked. And this is stamped in the BetterPress Mulberry ink, which is a really deep purple ink. So I did grab some purple, and I only had one yellow in the zigs. So it's a bright yellow, and so I decided to use an ink pad. So I'm putting some ink pad down just on a Ziploc bag just to use as a palette, and I'm coming in from the ends of the petals and drawing it towards the center, and then darkening the centers with the zig marker itself. And I like the way that ends up looking. The water or the paper that I used is the BetterPress paper, and I'm not getting a lot of movement from the zig markers on this paper. I think the water just absorbs really quickly, and it's not allowing me to move the zigs very much. It moves some, but not a whole lot. So by having that secondary color, it allows me to get a lighter tip, which is what I was after. I was trying to have a darker center and a lighter tip, like the sun was hitting the tips of the flowers, and the inside of the flower was deeper. So I'm still using my color theory background with Copics and applying those to the watercolor. So I'm darkening the centers, and then I'm bringing in the lighter color. Here I'm dragging it out a little bit with water, and then I'm bringing in the color from the outside. Now, on the second half of the flower, I just used the zig and I dragged it out as much as I could with the water. I was curious to see what the difference would be, and I show it here momentarily. So half of the flower is using both inks, and the other half of the flower is just with the zig and water. So let me show you here what that looks like, the comparison. So that half is using both, using that ink pad, and that half, those super pale tips, is using just the zig. That's all I could get pulling it out with water. So I did go ahead and finish the other half with the ink pad. So that's the finished flower there. So now we're going to go ahead and do the center. And I use multiple browns in the center. I start off with like a medium brown, and I do leave a highlight in the center. My goal is to have that highlight maintained in the center of the flower. And then I come and use a darker marker here on the right and the left because I want that highlight to remain in the center. So I'm just coming in from both sides, and I'm leaving that highlight. And then I'm probably going to come in with even a darker marker. Oh no, that's a lighter. I'm just going over the blend. And then I'm going to blend that a little bit with water, all of them together. Here again, guys, I'm not a professional with this. I am just working with the colors, trying to get them to look the way I want them to look. Excuse any noises you hear in the background. Miss Press here is playing around with me. She will not lay down, and if you're not sure who I'm talking about, little Miss Lola is the puppy of the hour. She is ruling my world at the moment, and she's trying to get on camera. or at least in the audio portion of this video. So I apologize for her little whining in the background. But the center of the flower is my goal here, is to keep it light and to have that far right side extremely dark, which I think I succeeded at. So now we're going to go to the berries. And for the berries, I believe I just used the one color. It's a red. And then I pulled that out with the water, which was no problem because red is such a concentrated color. So that gave me the light and the dark, which is what I was after. Now, my dark side of the color, I always put towards the branches. Anything that was going to be shadowed by the other foliage there, like another berry or a leaf or a twig, anything that could shadow it is where I put the red. And then I drug the red out towards where light would be hitting it. So that was my theory there anyways, is what I was going after. So that light was always on the outside, the farthest to the light. So I work on these berries right here. And I just do segments in this video just to save time. Like I do this branch of berries, but I don't show all the berries. And that's just to save your time. I want to be able to explain how I do everything, but not make you sit through every bit of it. So there's all the berries done. And then next, we are going to work on the leaves. So for the leaves, I've got two colors. And this is the darker, no, that is the lighter color, I believe. Let me watch this for a second. Hold on. I believe that, yeah, that's the lighter color. And I went up the stem, and then I'm adding just a little bit of dark, just at the base and up the center just a little bit. And then I come back in with the lighter and I kind of just flick it a little and blend that in so there's no harsh lines. And then I'm using the water just to spread it out just a tad. Now I left little bits of white on the tips of the leaves just to have a little light there hitting the edges. I love doing that with leaves. It's just like there's a shine to the tips, you know, where the sun is hitting. That's just something I like to do when I'm coloring. It doesn't always happen, but it's just like the lightness on the tips, you know, of the flowers and the lightness of the berries. I just like having where that light hits. So I go through all of them, starting with light, going down the center of the vein with the dark, going, you know, back over with the light to kind of blend the two together, and then mix it a little bit with the water to blend those two colors together. My Lola here is climbing all over me while I'm talking. It's almost impossible to do all this talking with her. But she is just wanting to play. She is a puppy. So I just don't know what else to do with her. But I don't want you to sit through an hour video while I color. So, and this does take time to do these colorings. So, but I want you to learn and be able to see how I do it. I am enjoying my zig markers, but they are starting to dry out. So I am going to be getting some new markers soon. I am running out of colors of my zigs. And I think I'm going to switch over to Karen watercolor markers, as Spellbinders has just begun carrying them in the store. You can get smaller sets or a large set. I actually heard about it through another influencer, and since my set is not a full set and it's starting to lack colors, which is why I don't have the lighter yellow, I thought that's something I might invest in myself. So that's something kind of down the line a little bit because I am enjoying this, and the BetterPress ink likes watercolors. So it doesn't like the Copics, it likes the watercolors. And I love the BetterPress. The BetterPress has become my best friend. I love that you can press these plates with the ink, and then you can turn around and hot foil them with the glimmer. So they are awesome. So there's are the leaves, the green leaves, and now we're going to do this big maple leaf back here with two colors of orange. I just love the way this gave the project a pop of brilliance in this card, or card front, I might say. But it just really just gave it a pop. And I just love the way it turned out, even though it's just a couple of little leaves behind this yellow flower. It just really, really made an impact. Okay, now I'm getting a bath all over my face. Lola, I cannot talk when you're kissing me. So on this, I'm doing the dark and the light again. And it is, making the veins and underneath the flower a little darker and pulling and dragging the light towards the tips. That's, anything under that flower is going to be casting a shadow. The flower is casting a shadow over the leaf. Just like if you put your fingers over the top of your other hand. Do that for a second. Take your hand and put your other fingers from your other hand over the top of, like, take your right fingers and put them over the top of your left hand. And you will see your fingers cast a shadow over your left hand. That is what those petals are doing to those maple leaves. And that's why you need those darker areas. So here I'm just going to go red on the tops of the mushrooms. It is very hard to do any shading when you're, especially with red, when you're trying to miss all those little white dots on the tops of the mushrooms. So I wasn't even going to try. So I just went in with red for the mushroom tops and skipped over, because the zig points on the zig markers are so incredibly fine tipped. I mean, they're even better than Copics, the tips of these markers. You can get into nooks and crannies and little tiny spaces. And so I'm able to easily get around all the little tiny details of the circles that are the white spots on the tops of the mushroom caps. So that's what I'm doing here, and I'm going very slow at it and just skipping around and inking around those little white spaces. So it's tedious, but it's doable because of the actual tip on the marker. So I do some shadowing with the brown marker underneath the cap, and then I use a lighter beige on the stem. And then I do the other mushroom exactly the same way. We are going to skip that in the video though, and you'll see it at the end. So I'm just showing there that those are all going to be that green color. That second one is going to be the orange. So now I believe we're going to do that purple leaf. And that purple leaf is going to be done with the ink pad. But I'm looking at that paper because that paper is the collection that we're using to coordinate all of my cards in these 10 cards that I've made with the Fall BetterPress collection. I've made 10 cards in total, and I've coordinated all of them with that graphic 45 Hello Pumpkin collection, paper collection. So, okay. So, so that is on scrapbook.com if you're interested, and I can link it down below if you're looking for a really good fall collection of paper. It is gorgeous. So, Lola, come here. So this ink, I'm just using the one ink, but I'm watering it down more on my little palette there for the deeper areas. So I water it down and I cover it all with a light inking. And then I go back in with a more stronger, um, more saturated color for the stem area and the base. And I really like the effect of it. I kind of liked coloring on the BetterPress paper more with the ink pads than I did with the zigs. The only good thing about the zigs is the tip of the marker. So if you need like detail work, I'd use your zigs, and or whatever watercolor marker you have that has a real detailed tip, like if you have stems or, real thin stuff. But if you want like blending and multiple, shadows and layers of color, using like an ink pad, like if you have a distress ink would work good, or any kind of dye-based ink like this, use that. Just use what you have. And, I had these and I have the whole radiant of color in these cubes. So I just went for it and matched my paper and decided I was going to just coordinate this with my paper. And I'm really happy with the results. I think it turned out really, really well. So you're about to see the finished project, and you'll have to let me know what you think in the comments of how it turned out. Because like I said, I'm not a professional. So, and I do apologize for the puppy noises. So please forgive me. So there it is. Now, let me show you the final project. Here it is in its completed state. From top to bottom. Look at those orange leaves. Don't those just pop? And I like the way those purple leaves turned out too. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.